All right, Shellfish Committee meeting for September 10th. Just before we start, I just want to make a notice of recording. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel, and in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. All right. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from August 13th. Open to any discussion?
I move approval.
Second. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. I do have some comments, but I'll bring it up in the third section. Now, Amy with the natural resources report.
Okay, so we have growing area updates. September 15th, as we all know, brings closures in the harbor. Thankfully, water quality has sustained these conditionally approved areas remaining open again for another year, which is awesome. New this year, this little section does not have to close. So the weird triangle off of Indian Trail that goes all the way from Blish can stay open this year. And Holly Williams, who is our area biologist, is looking to do additional sampling in this section here and also in this section here to see where, if there might be any wiggle room for those two areas moving forward. I'm not sure how promising that is. It's kind of like how we can sort of skate by with East Bay, but the Centerville River water quality data doesn't really support that being open in the winter months. But if she gets enough samples in and they're positive enough, then we may have those areas open as well, which would be great.
I didn't see where were you pointing on there?
The area that gets to stay open
Yeah.
is this little weird triangle here.
What are the other areas you were just referencing?
So this whole huge swath, CCB 33.0.
Oh, okay. I see.
And out by Wicks Island, 34.1.
Okay.
So we're gonna do some additional sampling while the area is in technically closed status, but to get a better idea of basically its waterfowl impacts. And then this is just the close-up that was sent to the recreational fishery because after September 15th, keeping people out of here is often challenging. So if you have a recreational permit and you got an email from me, it was in regards to this closure. There will be a sign posted up in the marsh and then a couple of reddish pink buoys that establish the closure line, showing this kind of relatively small area that's still open. Recreational area remains closed until the beginning of oyster season, which will be Wednesday, November 5th. And new this year will be allowing a peck a week, regardless of location, across all of the town. Also new this year, we are continuing to plant quahogs at Bay Street, but are still letting it lie fallow for oysters. Bridge Street, because I didn't have to close the recreational area this summer, we stopped planting oysters there and again went back to using it as a recreational area that we stock with quahogs for people during the summer months. And so now we're taking the stuff that we're raising off of the Cotuit Town Dock and putting it in that relay area that's just adjacent to the Cotuit Town Dock. So that's where the oysters will be on the south side for the recreational fishery this year. It's a really nice big parking lot. I got a draft of some parking regulations for like off-season people getting access to shellfish harvest areas. That looks kind of promising. So hopefully there won't be as many parking issues as there has been in recent years in the off-season for people. September propagation report. Well, that's stupid.
You have to make a choice.
I don't make any changes. There we go. No changes, okay. So, this was submitted by shellfish technicians Cecilia and Jessica. This summer, the shellfish propagation team has been working hard. They've spent a lot of time clearing out areas of the propagation sites in preparation for seed planting. As of today, they've dug 488 bushels so far for the year. They had our last 2 Learn to Shellfish classes for the season with rave reviews, had an amazing turnout for all classes this season, which was surprising because some of them were early in the morning, but they all filled. They'll continue them for years to come as they're a great way to introduce and teach best practices of shellfishing to members of the public. They've had a lot of non-residents attend since they're one of the few places to offer classes. This is believed to have increased our permit sales as well. So far, 1.2 million quahogs have been planted with a big push coming later this week. They have a planting day, I think Friday. They've had a great growing year. They're able to start planting at the beginning of August, which they have not been able to do in many years due to receiving seed later in the season or slow growth. They're still in discussions regarding the Bay Scallop project. We have one area already approved, but are in talks about citing other locations. The Scallop hatchery didn't anticipate such a demand for seed. We were lower on the list even though we put in an order last November. But didn't end up getting what we wanted. So we're not getting scallops this year. Gives us time to look for additional sites in Hyannis. They experienced a minor algae bloom in Prince Cove, but fortunately it seemed to have no impact on the babies that are in the Flupsy and are continuing to grow very well. Oysters on the north side at Scudder Lane are growing very well. They're still on track to start the season off with 1 peck permit per limit, both sides of town. They'll start planting on bottom next week. The south side oysters are growing more slowly as we're still dealing with suspected disease throughout 3 bays. We have dermo, everybody knows we have dermo. We have continued our regular maintenance, including cleaning quahog nets, fixing gear, and tending to the seed in the Flupsy. It's been an incredibly productive season, and I think part of that is they were lucky enough to have 2 of our seasonal laborers both have worked for us before, so just already came pre-trained and know the drill. It's nice when you don't have to start from scratch with somebody. Scallop management closure at Calmus. I wasn't able to get a map from GIS before this meeting, but this is Calmus in case anybody's not aware of where Calmus is. There's like nothing there this year. There's eelgrass and there's seed, but there's really nothing to speak of in terms of worthwhile recreational harvest. So I want to use the same tool that we used for that razor clam closure we had from Barnstable Yacht Club to Salton Point, and basically, you know, out from here, just, oh wait. I'm sorry, where's SD Ave? Right here?
No, keep
No,
going.
keep, yeah, there,
That's
yeah. So yeah, so the normal area that's marked off as the no boating, no commercial zone, I just want to close and have no scalloping be allowed in there recreationally for the season. Scallop season is by far the most challenging enforcement season for us, just because of the nature of how they're measured as legal. It's not straightforward, people don't understand it, and with so much seed present, we're just not entertaining having it be open this year. And let's see, what else? I wasn't able to attend the open space recreation planning meeting that was last Thursday because I was at a funeral. But the meeting that was open to everybody, August 28th, was recorded and is available online. As I was mentioning to Patricia, that plan has been in place since the mid-90s and gets updated every handful of years. So this is just the most recent update to that plan. I think that's it for me, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay. Thanks, Amy. On to new business. First topic is discussion about having same time meetings 12 months of the year for 26. I guess what time would that be? 6:30 or
6?
6? Yeah.
I think earlier's.
Yeah.
I think earlier's a little better.
I don't have a vote, I don't care. Don't look at me.
Year round?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does
that work?
Yours is going 6 and 6:30 the way we
Well, it
have.
doesn't really seem to make a difference. It just makes like
Just keep it
for
one
the
time.
half the year. It just seems like our meetings don't really seem to be a problem, and if it does, then everybody doesn't show up. You know.
Yeah, it's really just the summertime, you know, when the days are longer, that there's an issue, and if there's an issue, like 4 of us aren't gonna be able to go. So it's really just, you know, instead of having that switch whenever it is, it's just constant, 6 or 6:30. I mean, I'm okay with 6 if you
I'm good with 6, yeah,
Yeah, 6 is fine.
6.
Is that gonna cut into people's time fishing though, or 6:30?
I think regardless whether we were
Yeah.
Half hour's
fishing
not
or
gonna make a
not, half
difference.
an hour isn't a big difference, yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, you guys are almost at a full committee anyway, so even if 4 of you didn't come, if you had 5, you'd still have a quorum and could still have a meeting.
So 6 it is?
6 it is, do we,
I make a motion to change the 2026 meeting time to 6 p.m.
I second
going
it.
forward,
Beginning when?
January,
January 1.
I second it.
second it, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Alright, easy enough. Next, we have the apprentice program discussion. Proposed limitations on hour per species. Amy, do you wanna explain?
Yeah, so I've been getting a lot of complaints about the apprentice program, and the reality of it is that, you know, prior to us attempting to document how these 400 hours are done, there was no documentation of it whatsoever. And so, you know, it's a brainchild. It's certainly not perfect and doesn't have to be without editing. I've had complaints about people seeing people potentially not as actively engaged in the fishing as they'd like to see. And then I have other people on the other side of that are stating that, you know, it's not just about the activity of the fishing, but engaging with the environment. I can see both sides of it. What I do see right now that's frustrating to myself and to my staff is that 99%, if not 100% of some of the people's hours in this program have been dedicated just to razor clamming. And so I think one thing that I'd like to see in this program is a limitation on the amount of hours that you can do on an apprentice permit per species. Like, I don't think you're going to be a well-rounded commercial shellfisher of any sort if you spend 400 hours squirting holes, picking up razor clams and stacking them in bushel baskets. So my thought, you know, since it is 400 hours, you know, maybe no more than a quarter of that time can be dedicated to any one species. Really, that's where my brain has gone to in terms of this discussion. We obviously have a lot of stakeholders here today, and I want to have everybody be on the same page and make this into something that actually makes sense. The other piece of it was either last year or the year before, a vote had been made that I think maybe was misunderstood in intent. My understanding from discussions with Doug and with Stuart over the years was that the point of the apprentice program was to provide a framework for additional permits to be added to a closed fishery over time through an apprentice program. So we had talked about if an apprentice gets the commercial permit, holds that permit for a period of 5 years, then at that point only would it be another permanent addition to the fishery. So, like, you know, after the holding that permit for 5 years, it becomes number 48 or number 49. I'm understanding now that that may not be the temperature of what people in the fishery want. I have no stake in this game, but if that's where this discussion goes, it needs to be properly vetted, just like any other regulation change. I'd have to draft something. It needs your review, it needs your vote, it needs public weigh-in, it goes to public hearing, etc. So I'm just really opening up the discussion so we can make the apprentice program something that is successful, meaningful, and in the best interest, you know, of the future of the fishery. So that's where my brain's at on it.
Okay, let's start with the public first before we talk about it at the table. I mean, does anyone have any comments?
I do.
Go ahead.
Just make
Just
sure
say-
you
say your-
identify yourself.
Yeah, say your
Henry
name, please.
Senzali.
Yep.
My daughters, 10 and 11 years old, both have apprentice licenses. As a commercial shellfish license holder, it's at my discretion to choose what I shellfish for, what I target as the species I want to fish for. So as my apprentices are under my supervision, it's my decision to choose what species I target. So if I choose not to quahog or razor clam or whatever the species is, I shouldn't be obligated to have to go out and spend those extra 100 hours or 25% of that time fishing for a species that I don't usually target. And I've heard a lot about this throughout the summer, about how my kids aren't engaging actively and specifically working on picking up razor clams or doing, right by my side the whole time. A lot of the times they'll wander off for a little while, but then they bring baskets to me as needed, or they're carrying baskets to the boat, or there's a lot more to the apprentice license thing than just specifically standing by my side and watching me spray holes. So I don't think the dividing it into 25% of each species is a reasonable thing to do. Like I said, I specifically, right now I'm fishing for razor clams. I haven't cohogged in a number of years because I don't have the equipment to do that. There's no steamer clams to dry dig in the harbor right now. I haven't pumped clams in North Bay in a number of years because there hasn't been a lot of product out there. So I don't think that's a legitimate reason to change that. And my other question is there's only 5 apprentice licenses right now, I believe. Why is it even an issue to address this when there's only a few young kids that are trying to explore the fisheries?
Thank you. Before we come back here, anyone else wanna say their, yeah, go ahead.
I'm Joe Weinberg. My daughter Olivia has an apprentice permit. She's 15. From what I understand, she needs to get the 400 hours in by the time she's 18, is that correct?
Yep, by the time she turns 18, it's the 400 hours and then proof of having taken boater safety course.
I have an issue with the time constraint. I think 400 hours is unreasonable. I think it puts her at a disadvantage just because of her age, given that this was implemented when she was, at an age where she only has a few years to get the 400 hours in. She's on the varsity basketball team. She's a full-time student. She works hard playing basketball. She managed to get 20 tides in the past 6 months. And I see her having a really hard time getting 400 hours in, which I think is unfair given that she's grown up in Barnstable Harbor. She's been out, I've taken her when I'm digging steamers and she hasn't dug, but she's been out there, she's witnessed the fishery, she's pretty well acquainted boat handling, seamanship, she's been out on my charter boat. I mean, she's grown up on the water, and I have a problem with, I don't see her getting 400 hours in, and I certainly don't think that she should be limited, now the issue's coming up that it's maybe X amount of hours razoring, X amount of hours steamer digging, X amount of hours cohogging. I mean, an 18-year-old kid could get lucky and be the next one on the lottery list and get a permit and have absolutely zero knowledge of shellfishing, and there he is turned loose in the town shellfishing without a speck of any idea what's going on. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right, and I don't think that's the intent of the way this started.
Okay, that's very, very valid points. Obviously you guys are fishermen, I am not. We look at this from 2 different perspectives, so I appreciate the feedback. I will just say, Joe, though, the 400 hours is not new. That's been 400 hours the entire time that regulation has been in place. That's not something that, we came up with. It was already established when they created that regulation originally. What we ended up doing was changing the age requirements to, in fact, give people a little bit more leeway. So she could have been participating in this program, from the time she was 7, 8, 9, 10, all of those things.
Can I add to that? Can I comment to that?
Yeah.
So she might not have the document hours, but she was there and she was learning under my tutelage. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't think it's fair that that I should be, that she should be held back because of a lack of documented hours. I think it should be up to the parent, not the town. That's my feeling.
Can I add something to that too? My girls had over 100 hours, and I called the DNR to confirm the amount of hours that they had, and the DNR only had them down for about 53 hours. And I write it in a book every time we go out and shellfish. And there was times where I had called and they got the call when I left, but they didn't get the call when I came in, or vice versa. And I have obviously the phone records to show that I called when I left and I called when I came in. So a lot of these hours aren't even getting documented. And like Joe said, if these are young kids that are going to school, they're getting their first jobs, and you're asking them to give up 10 weeks of their teenage years to learn a fishery when someone can just jump in on the lottery and not have any knowledge at all. So why is it so important that they get all this knowledge under the apprenticeship when they can just jump in the lottery and come in as a fisherman with no knowledge at all?
Go ahead.
Just a question on the 400 hours.
Identify yourself.
Yes.
Bruce Blackman. Is that just limited, that time for actually digging, or is it when you launch the boat, bring the boat back, drop the clams off at a dealer? Is it, what's the 400 hours? What's the definition of the use of?
I think like getting the boat hooked up, prepping a boat for a workday is all part of that. Going to the wholesale dealer, learning about tagging, if they're going to the wholesale dealer, that's all important practices too. I think it all can be included in that's a work day, right?
Right.
That's my personal opinion on it. I know initially that wasn't something that we had really discussed as part of it, but it makes sense for it to be part of it because the tagging, going to the wholesale dealer, following your temperature time controls, all of those things are equally as important as harvest.
I know you have to.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you have to file that report, the state, and they ask you, oh, you fished on this day, how many hours? Is that the information used in that monthly report that you submit to the state? Or are we going by a different definition? It's really the whole evolution then from, getting the boat prepared, launching the boat, taking it out, even bringing it back and, cleaning it, housekeeping, all that, and going to the distributor. All that time does count.
Yeah, and I think, initially the way that it was described to me by someone who had gone through the program was basically his dad just went in, told my predecessor, yeah, he did the 400 hours and then he got a permit. I think we were just trying to create some sort of documentation to show that hours are actually being done. Because prior to there was nothing. And it really was just supposed to be like a checks and balances. I didn't want it to be like, we're going to have to be out there making sure that people are like glued to their sponsor the entire time that they're out there. It wasn't supposed to be so supervised. And again, I'm very open to suggestion because we want it to be meaningful. And this is supposed to be a way to keep, fishing families fishing and be a potential way to grow the fishery. There was some discussion around if an apprentice permit just stays an apprentice permit for forever rather than it being permanently added to the fishery after 5 years. If anyone has any thoughts on that, again, like I said, my initial understanding was that the apprentice permit was supposed to be a way to gradually add numbers back into a closed fishery.
Anything else from the public before we have our discussion?
Yeah, Tom Wright, Chevy. About what you said, Amy, about the different species. As a commercial fisherman, we always go for the most viable species. And if there's no steamers, we're not gonna go try and dig steamers or cohogs.
No, yeah, I understand it. Very valid, well taken and absorbed point.
Anyone else? Alright, I think for the committee, there's a few things just from hearing everybody, like, yeah, the hours. There's things to adjust we can do with hours to species. I do think doing different species is valuable. Are they tied to just their single sponsor, or are they allowed to go to
Three.
different?
I mean, all I did was make an application that
yeah.
had
You can
spaces for
list-
three.
You can list more, yeah,
Permission of
Yeah.
this person to.
Yeah, as
So I-
long as it's a commercial permit holder, you
Yeah.
know, you can go out with whoever, as long as you trust that person with your kid.
I also
Yeah.
think, you know, a quarter is, especially if it's at 400, that's a lot of hours you gotta put to multiple species too.
Right.
But I don't know, what do you, also there's the age too. You could adjust the age or whatnot, but what do you guys think? Go ahead, Jake.
Maybe not more than 50% of one species, and then you could mix as much as you want for the other half. And then I do agree, I don't think that, you know, if somebody gets the permit through this apprentice program that, you know, at 21 or 30, that they decide to get married and move away or whatever, then this permit would not go back into the lottery, it would just remain the 47 licenses that it currently is at now.
So I guess that was my kind of hitting off my subject. So I'm just wondering if there's a slight bit of contention maybe with wanting to make rules because of that rule currently. So if, I'll be honest, I was under the impression that when there's an apprenticeship permit granted at 18, if they fulfill their hours, that it was gonna have, like I think I spoke to you at a separate time, there would be the asterisks or whatever we detonated or denoted for that. But that's not the case, it actually gets added in, so I'm wondering if there's, I mean, I get the reason, it's closed fishery, probably for a reason at some point in time, because there was a mob of people here. I think the chances of somebody getting all the way through the apprenticeship program to get added into the general auto is very small. But I'm wondering if we just eliminate that small thing, just so we have the two separate, there is apprentice permits, which are fully usable, and they're fully usable that person's life if they stay here and everything like that, but they are not to be added into the closed fishery area, cause I mean, I don't know how everybody else thinks, but I don't think it should keep growing and growing and growing, I mean, it's not that, there's only, what's the percentage of people using their active license right now?
On a regular basis,
You know what I mean,
maybe
so.
half, today, close to half.
So I guess that if it was so viable for the 47, why wouldn't the 47, especially right now in this current climate that we are blessed to have, why wouldn't the 47 people be out there doing it, I guess? So why grow the 47 when the people aren't even doing it at one of the most lucrative times in the history? So I guess that's kind of my thing about it, that just to touch on the adding thing. And again, with species, you don't know, I mean, it's just like if we do make rules for the quarter, that can get kind of constrictive too, because I mean, if there's no clams, there's no clam, I mean, I get that
Yeah.
totally.
I
mean, that might be-
understand that, yeah.
The 50%, I mean, it's somewhere to start, I don't know, it sounds like you guys, I mean, it's a good idea, people should have experience, I agree with that, but we all gotta talk, you know, so.
But on the other hand, I can see where, say, like Hank is coming from, because he doesn't cohog anymore and hasn't been pumping for steamers in years, and just having to do that just because you have kids in an apprentice program doesn't really make sense if you're fishing for what's most lucrative and you're fishing for what's out there.
I had another question, Henry Sanzali. Why would it be an issue that for you to specifically target one species for 400 hours anyways? What would be wrong with that? Why is there a problem where we would have to go for different types of species if, you know, like I said, I specifically right now I'm fishing for razor clams, so why is that even an issue?
I think it's just an issue in my brain because I'm wired differently than you. Like, I see a recreational fishery, like a very large recreational fishery all of the time, much more than I interact with you guys in the field on a regular basis. like I understand you're out there to make a living and that you target specific things based on what's available and what makes sense. But like the way that I look at it with a recreational fishery is the more species somebody engages with, the more likely they are to understand, conservation measures, sustainability, like just, best management practices for digging, all of those things. So I think it just was more from like an educational perspective, more so than like understanding it from a fisherman's perspective.
My thinking, I'm listening and I'm recreation, but I'm also a retired teacher. So what I'm hearing is the intern program is a way for someone younger to come in and learn the business. And I think what Amy is saying is she wants them to get a broad view of the business, because if they only focus on one thing, if that thing becomes unavailable to them at some point, they're not going to have the experience and the knowledge to try something else to make a living. So I think that's why you're saying, excuse me, the intern program is an educational program and it needs to have a broad base so that when they graduate from it, they are able to go with the times, to do what needs to be done, and can be a success.
I guess ideally, yes, that's the way I look at it. But then if you look at it from their perspective, somebody completely random could just put their name in the lottery. They fit the residence requirements, they get a state commercial permit, they pay the fee. They may have never shellfished a day in their life, and they now
They're not guaranteed
have.
a license when they go in the lottery, but they are
True.
guaranteed a license if they go through the program, which is kind of like learning to drive. It's like, you don't have to take driver's ed. You can wait until you're, 21?
Yeah.
And then just go take the test. But if you want to do it sooner and you want to be a better driver, you take a course. And we're just offering a course that guarantees the license versus the lottery, which, I don't know about you guys, I bought tickets and nothing happened. So that's a lottery. You might get it, you might not.
Yeah, I would think that if my son or daughter was interested, I would want them to have a wide field of diversity, of understanding of the industry and the growth and the different species that are out there. Because everything affects everything. And that gives them a background, a grounding that they'd have that knowledge.
Make them resilient if
What do you
things
think?
change.
Agree,
Yeah. I mean,
I would like to say that.
for diversity,
You're
the poster
as
child.
far as just being razor clams, there are steamers out there right now that you could go dig. There are cohogs out there that people would dig, and when the kids are 10 and 11 years old and they have until 18, I mean, that's a really long time to get 400 hours, which isn't actually that long. And I do think that it should be hours on the water, and I think that they should be actively helping, not just playing in the sand or in the boat because they were tired,
But what about in Joe's situation where his daughter didn't get into the program until she was 15 years old?
How
And she's,
come she didn't get in until she was 15?
I really wasn't aware
that's when
of
she
that.
chose to
I
get
know,
into
that's
it.
like unfortunate, to me,
I mean,
That doesn't mean she wasn't out learning.
I think still, like, we could, I'm kinda okay with like extending it to 21, say, if that was a possibility, like, especially like if you wanted to keep that hourly requirement, cause you got college coming up, like, it just extends that a little bit longer. to
So
where-
then can we bring it back on the younger side so they're not just playing around, you know what I mean, and make it maybe a little older to get into it?
Like 14 to 21 kind
Sure.
of thing.
Oh, I'm not gonna agree with them.
One second, Joe, go ahead.
I just wanted to address the idea that you want a well-rounded digger. Mark Lazari has had his shellfish permit in this town decades before I had mine. He just very recently started razor clamming and had no idea how to do it. Can you imagine telling him that he's not a well-rounded digger? He's been shellfishing in this town for a very long
I
time.
don't think anyone would say that to me.
Yeah, I don't think that was the
Right?
intent.
Yeah.
And I
We
think
weren't
it's kind
saying
of
they weren't-
absurd I think
Yeah.
it's absurd to put some kind of restriction on somebody because maybe they don't wanna go dig steamers.
Sure.
You know, Hank said it best, really, we target what's gonna be the most lucrative shellfish. I can't imagine targeting something that maybe puts the day at a financial disadvantage just to hit an hour requirement for the town. It just doesn't make sense. That's not good business. That's not what we do. We do what we feel, and that is a personal choice. We do what we feel is the best move for us to make. I don't like pumping soft shell clams. Mark loves pumping steamers.
But what if your child spent a day with Mark and got that experience for a day versus spending every day with you and seeing how you do it?
The reason I stopped taking my daughter out on the flat was back in 2010, Mark was shouting sexually profane at the top of his lungs. I had to go over and say, hey, Mark, I have my 9-year-old daughter out to show her the process of digging steamers. Can you, and if I said the words in this meeting, you'd probably ask me to leave. I have people here that heard the whole thing go down.
I remember that day.
It's up to me to raise my child the way I see fit. She was there and she didn't.
Nobody's telling you not to how to raise your child. We're just trying to come up with an idea to make an educational program educational.
Make it work for
But
everyone.
but educating my
And
child.
so I
to
don't know,
me-
Mark, and I picked a wrong example, I apologize, but I'm sure there's somebody in this room who does something differently than you do, that you would feel confident saying, yeah, you can, go out with him or her for the day. So really, that's my point. It's not, Mark, I don't know if I fell over him, and apparently I don't want to. But, just thinking, how can we make an educational program educational? Because that is the goal of the program, is to educate. And that will make them more resilient when things change versus having to figure it out on their own, or,
In the corner.
Shelley Sanzali, I would just like to say my daughters, they've been out there razor clamming. They also explore. They explore other species while they're out there. And they also have been going out on the water with me since they were, 6 and 7 years old. So they have experience in all these different things already. They don't just go out razor clamming and don't do anything else, they understand all the other species and all the things, tides, everything about fishing. It's in my family blood.
And then we had another hand over here.
I was just gonna say, as a commercial fisherman, when you lose one species, you learn very quick to catch something else. So that's your learning experience.
All right, Paul?
I have an apprentice. He's 16, and I do wonder about the hours, him actually making the hours. So what happens if you get 300 and you turn 18?
I mean, I'm open to discussion on that. Like, the hours were 400 when the regulation was written. When we went through this discussion last time, nobody said boo about it being 400 hours. I think at the time we discussed that, an electrician apprentice, I think, is 1,000 hours. And so 400 seemed like, it's like a handful of weeks of your life. You get out there, you learn it. But I mean, I'm not stuck to it in any way.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was already established rules as far as it goes.
I mean, it's a regulation, so if we change it, I have to draft it differently, but that's why we're here discussing this today. Like, it sounds like the temperature in the room is we don't want an apprentice permit to be added permanently to the fishery. But again, that needs more than just this room vetting, that has to go through public process. So I'm fine tweaking this regulation and bringing it back next week and then getting, public hearing going so that the public has an opportunity to weigh in on something outside of just the stakeholders in this room. But it literally was trying to give a little bit more leeway to people participating in the program and just trying to better keep track of hours actually being done. But we see them when they're out there. So yeah, it's all open for discussion, really.
As far as the hours go, it used to be 2,000 hours.
2,000 hours?
Yes, it's in the minutes.
Yeah.
It used to be 2,000 hours and now it's 400.
In the 90s? Oh my
400
God.
divided by 5 is, what is that? I don't even know, 125 or something.
When was that? When was like,
It's 125 days.
When they first started.
When they first started it?
Typical.
92 through
Yeah.
98 or something like that.
wow.
I don't think 400's that crazy. Like, I mean, it's a master shellfish permit in the town of Barnstable, one of the most, you know,
Productive areas in the state.
one of the most sought after shellfish permits in the whole country. I look into all different fisheries around the country and I don't know I've never seen anywhere where I say I wanna go move there because that's just so much better than Barnstable, you know?
So then age?
If we push the age back.
Or if we just say upon completion of 400 hours?
Well, then that opens it to just everybody, you know?
Oh, that's true, yeah.
I mean, this is
That
for
is
young,
true.
you know, I guess
Yeah.
it could be, what about like a start date? Like, never mind.
I think, what's the
If you
start
push,
now?
if you push it back
There
to
is none.
21.
There is none.
There's no starting age.
I mean, I say
Gemma's
10
how
to-
old and she's gone out with you a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there has to, well, Tim, not to like call him out or anything, but when he goes, not to put him on the spot, I guess, but like when he goes, his daughter, when she doesn't work anymore because she's so young and she wants to hang out in the boat, like he will report less hours, or so he says, you know, so I think that like if you have a small kid and they want to do a half hour and it's an honest half hour's work, you know what I mean, then I don't think that should be not.
I mean, I
but
think that's kind of hard for us
Yeah, yeah.
to determine.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I think, so let's start with like the permit after the fact. So I think we're kind of in an agreement as far as it not being added to the total and it staying an apprenticeship permit.
That's what I thought
Yeah.
in the beginning, that's what I thought we had
Do you
voted
guys
on.
have-
That's what I honestly thought we voted on in the beginning.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what that means though?
So when they get, so say an apprentice gets their 400 hours at the moment, like they get a license to actually be in the fishery, and does it become a commercial license? At the moment, yes, but when they decide to give it up after 5 years, is that added to the total within the town's fishery? Or does that, if they give it up, it's just gone? So, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
not
otherwise
adding
you don't have a
more,
closed
yeah,
fishery.
like it's, you work for the permit, you get the permit, you give it up, it's gone.
Okay, that's fine.
So
That I
we'll
can-
draft something
that
up
I can
in
draft.
that regard. The total hours,
Can I say something about the age?
we'll get to that next, but, or actually, let's do age first.
Okay.
Alright, what, thoughts on age? Yes.
So my thoughts on the age is if you do push it up to say 21, that gives them opportunity to work summers. If they go to college, they can do this during the summer, and then they're more in a position to decide whether or not this is what they
That's what they
want.
wanna do.
You know, they may be like, right now going, yeah, I want this, and then, you know, they get to be 20 and like, what am I doing? I don't wanna do this. Where you give them a chance to kind of grow into it and see if they want it.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
You got any thoughts? I think that's reasonable. Go ahead, Patricia.
I mean, I was never a parent, but I'll tell you, you know, I went back to school later on in life and I got my BA. And it took some work. But if you have a son or a daughter and you're in the industry and they have a chance to go to college to study science of whatever they're all right, that's a benefit to your business and to theirs, their future and their business. Even if they don't pick it up and go with it, it's still, it's never a waste to get further education, no matter what you do after you get it. It's never wasted. So, you know, I would think that every parent, if they have the chance to send a youngster to school, they would want to do that. And keep them in the industry, and then they'll, you know, at 21, their decisions are gonna be a lot different than what they were at 18. And you all know that, we've lived through that ourselves.
So, I mean, I think 21's reasonable, and that's like, you know, that extends it if join it a little later.
I think 21's reasonable.
Okay.
They're not
So,
going on the permanent list anyways, it's still
so
apprentices.
let's-
So if they take off, the license is going on anyway, so,
So let's add that to the draft too.
in my opinion.
Okay.
So with that being said, I think it's worth still keeping the total hours as they are. But, I mean, as far as total hours go, what do you guys think?
If you give them till 21, I think.
And I mean,
Especially for some of this, because I didn't know about it until late. He didn't find out about it.
and that's how it's
I just
been
found
for
out
a
about
while.
last year about the apprentice, so I had no clue.
Well, are we making this adjustment for people not knowing the regulations though?
No.
You know what I'm saying though, that's what it seems like.
And I think, like, it is at 400 hours, I think we keep it at 400 hours, adjust some other things.
Okay.
And then, you know, in the future, if anything ever comes up, we can revisit it or whatnot. And then, go ahead.
I just wanna make sure that I'm on the same page
So-
with everybody for when I draft something for next month
Yeah.
for review. Age change from 18 to 21st birthday. And we wanna take out the part where an apprentice permit would ever be added to the permanent fishery.
In agreement with that
I
so
would
far?
agree with that.
Those are the
Sorry, I
two
missed,
things.
sorry, say that one more time.
We changed the age from 18 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
And we get rid of the piece of the regulation right now that would, if they held the permit for 5 years, add it permanently to the fishery. So it stays a 47-person fishery. An apprentice permit can be a permit for the entirety of your life, or you could have it for 10 years, you give it up, it just disappears. That's where you guys are at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, final thing, hours dedicated to species.
I think we have to throw that out the window.
Out the window?
I don't think so at all.
I think,
I think 50%, and but given the amount of time, you know, how long is this so you're gonna just razor clam one set and then you don't see somebody until they get their license, and then, I mean, there's plenty of species out there. Joe, in the past years, probably fished steamers and cohogs, or, you know.
and they'll come back, and then also.
So I just think that, you know, I think 50% or something, you know, you have to have a diverse, it's a master shellfish permit to harvest everything, and I've probably sold up to 7 species, including periwinkles, okay? Mussels, periwinkles, bay scallops, cohogs, steamers, stubby razor clams, regular razor clams, surf clams. I mean, there's so many things to harvest. I just think that to just say that you can just get it in one species, I mean, it basically is gonna make it so that, like, we're just giving anybody who has kids licenses, it's just like kind of, we're just gonna get a license so we can get more clams, and, you know, that's kind of like what some people are thinking, and I think that to show some true dedication to the fishery is what it will make people feel better to get a master shellfish permit in this town, and there are steamers, there are cohogs. Just because you didn't hear somebody tell you about where they are, doesn't mean that, you know, they're not out there, and so, and with increasing the time that it takes to get the license, I think that's fine, you know, like, you're not always gonna razor clam.
What if for people who are very specific with their commercial harvest and what they target, they have kids, maybe like go to our clamming class for kids where we teach kids how to dig cohogs and how to dig steamers in one fell swoop. You know.
That's different than commercially harvesting shellfish.
It is, but the practice is similar.
It's very different. I've seen the videos on YouTube of, you know, like, it's completely different.
How about Tim and Paul, like, you guys have both apprentices, so, like, what about,
I mean, I have a
Doing a
16-year-old, he's gonna dig cohogs.
yeah,
I mean, steamers, I hate digging steamers, I ain't digging no damn steamers. If I put to pull up a chair and say, go ahead, don't stab yourself in that rake.
If you wanna dig cohogs on a farm, That would,
It's yeah.
if you want a
That's
full
all
rate
I'm gonna
maybe,
do.
like, but some sort of interaction with other species. You know, and I think that just getting it, you know, I think you, half for one is I don't think it's that hard. For some, we're not talking about a master permit for life set up in this town. This is, we're just handing them out, like, that's what I feel like.
I just wanna add that,
Say your
absolutely,
name, please.
Henry Senzali. I'm absolutely gonna teach my girls how to dig steamers if there's a good set, or even if there isn't, I'm gonna bring them out and explore the fishery and look for steamers and teach them how to dig. I'm gonna teach them how to go do cohogging. I'm gonna teach them everything that I know about fishing so that they have all the knowledge I have so that they can expand and continue to grow the fishery. But I don't think I should be obligated for a certain amount of time to have to go out and buy the equipment to do that species within a certain amount of time for them to learn that species of fishing. It should be at my discretion or their discretion to learn as they grow and explore the fisheries.
Joe?
I would just like to add, similar to what Hank was saying, is everybody that's out shellfishing at one time knew nothing. And we all started at the same place, ground level, and we were afforded the time and the ability to go as we saw fit, to go do what we wanted, the freedom to target whatever species we wanted and learn. That's the nature of it. That's, you know, to say that, okay, you're not allowed to go do this unless you're an expert at digging such and such a species is just not reasonable. It's not how any of us had to do it. And I don't know why we should bog these kids down with that kind of restriction. It's not.
Because we're adding a
It's not
fisherman we're adding a fisherman. I think that whole story is how you get, when you get it through the lottery program, that's kind of what happens when you get it through the lottery program, and that's what happened to all of us through the lottery program. But when you think about adding another license, there should
It's
be.
the same thing.
No, you're adding, increasing the number of fishermen.
Well, isn't that the same thing as
So
somebody
the kid's gonna get
winning
a license for
lottery
life,
and
they
making
should,
that
they
permit?
should, there's a, so you have 21 years to do 400 hours of your, like, you, in your first 21 years, you just have to dedicate 400 hours to harvesting shellfish. I just think that, you know, you're gonna get a lifetime permit for the rest of your life to do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. If you don't ever wanna do steamers again, then you really will know that you never wanna do steamers again. But I think just, you know, it makes it so that it's a privilege to get this permit for everybody, especially somebody that's gonna be increasing, you know, the fishermen out there. And they're getting it, you know, because they have family. And, you know, there's kids out there that don't have family that might wanna do it, but they don't have a sponsor. And then there's people out there that might not ever have kids, that will never have kids that go through the permit process, or they're too old and they just find out. So just to make it, like, I wanna make it I wanna feel good about the kids that are out there and say, yeah, that's, you know, and to be honest, I know Olivia was out there, and I know she was, you know, watching and during the COVID and all that stuff, so like, I don't wanna take that away from her. I do wanna acknowledge that, you know, that she was out there a lot. And, you know, I think that, you know, at 21, then she'll be able to make it up, you know, that's what I think.
So,
One more point, please, I'm sorry.
all right, just be
Tom Wright,
quick.
Chevy. They'll be very quick. For 400 hours, whatever it's gonna take, how many years, they're gonna have to do other species, because there won't be the razors to catch. So this is not a point to be made.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna be fishermen, we're gonna fish.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
So
But what if you get the 400 hours on razors and then you don't
How do you
ever
get
have to?
400 hours on razors? We're gonna
How
run
many, you can, you could, you know, I mean, I'm not.
yeah, especially when
Okay,
the
so-
fishery's almost up.
Okay,
Like, or it's
they
gonna
come
be
every 2
expired
or
at some
3
point.
years. If somebody's a very young kid, they're gonna see several more
Yeah.
razor sets.
Right, but there's gonna be a gap in between
But
it, so what
that
do
you
you do
don't-
between the gap?
But if you're saying that you don't do any
Yes.
other fisheries,
And-
Yeah.
then you're not gonna do any other fisheries, and you're just gonna do razor
Maybe you
clams.
should fish with not just your
That,
family.
the argument is that what's the big deal?
Yeah,
about
that's
it?
Alright, I'm gonna cut you off.
I'm
Alright,
sorry.
so
We're getting into that part.
Yes,
where
thank
people are
you.
just talking
Yeah.
over other people now.
where I think, and just the committee now, I mean, personally, I think it's a reasonable thing to ask or require, you know, a certain percentage dedicated to multiple species, or add a class, you know, or help the town, be able to help the town aquaculture, or whatever.
And that's
But,
wild fishing.
but, yeah, but just getting experience in other fisheries. So I think either, we can push this on to next month, try to get some ideas among the committee and try to get something figured out. But I think, like, there's just too many ideas and too many stakeholders. I think just a little bit of time and try to get something on the board would be ideal. I think we made some progress, but just need a little more time.
It also isn't something that has to
Be
be
done immediately.
drafted like as part of that program. It could just be like a policy
Yeah.
that's adopted as a part of the program. You know, like it's not in the regulation that you have to call in the hours, you know? That's just a policy that we've adopted to try to document the hours and keep track
What's
of
the
the people
difference?
that are out there. So regulations are harsher, there's less flexibility to them. So what I'm saying is like, maybe it doesn't have to be, you have to do this percentage per species and then like you can't do that anymore. Maybe it's just showing some sort of diversity of learning different fisheries and not tying it to a percentage, because, like, you know,
We don't need to make it just, we
I think
just
we're
give it to any kid,
overcomplicating
right? I
it,
mean,
is all.
we just give it to any kid, you know,
like
that,
I'm
you know.
I'm perfectly comfortable changing the age, I'm perfectly
Well, it's
comfortable
just like,
drafting
if we are doing
something about not
percentages,
adding
What numbers?
Well,
permanently to the
50%,
fishery.
and
I
then the
get
rest
it.
all a mix, you know, you could,
I-
you don't have to be 50-50.
Yeah. And I mean, but I just think, you know, let's go to the drawing board and try to come up with some legitimate figures and a legitimate plan. Before we get something like that drafted up. But let's move on from that, alright? I asked to list the third thing, cause I feel like a lot of the NOIs we keep getting. Me and Jake had talked, I think either last meeting or whatnot, but the bottom to whole requirements, so I kinda looked into it a little bit and it's all chapter 91. Where, you know, under the state, there's, you know, their regulations and, you know, it's 30 inches at medium low tide, but in some areas we feel like, you know.
In every area.
Yeah, and it's just like every dock project we get is either an extended project or, you know, and these people just keep sending them in with good shellfish habitat and it's just to get a bigger boat. So I didn't know if there was a way to approach Concom, or just figure out what better system other than 30 inches and 12 inches to approach them to start judging some of these projects. And I just kind of wanted to open a discussion on that. I did find that, you know, also what's the enforcement of these piers? Like, you know, how does that work? Who is it and whatnot? I missed the meeting the other day, but I know 2 projects got continued to October and November. So, and I did write a letter to 108, or the commission about 108 Long Beach Road, saying we were not for it. But, you know, just kinda a way to add more to our point, cause it's usually like, I could write a letter to every project about, hey, we don't think the 30 inches is enough, like blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I just wanted to approach them with something legitimate if we wanted to do that. Jake?
So I think the problem that often comes up is when we talk about the mean low water is that it's mean low water and that's only like half the time. So we always have minus tides almost or plus tides, but so we got a significant amount of time that mean low water is the low tide is it's on the bottom, boats are on the bottom sometimes. So to change the rule, and now the tides change all the time, so it's like I think the worst, like you can get like a negative 2.2. It might be like the most negative you ever see in Barnstable Harbor, where like the worst would be on the opposite direction, but the next year it might only be 1.8, or like you know what I'm saying, or it might be that once a year. So you can't just pick like the most extreme tide.
So what I did find is that, what the state went off of for this is like, they went off like a 19-year data sheet of tides. So like, to try to go at it scientifically and ask, the town to adjust it based on what the town situation is would kind of be impossible to try to change it. But I think the commission has the ability to judge in-town projects more based on their regulations. So it's like, they just go off of the state's regulation. It's like, we could just ask them to adjust it, 6 inches or whatever. But I just wanna approach them with something reasonable. And I don't think, like, if I went with that argument,
No, I didn't know that,
they wouldn't look at it.
Yeah, sure.
So but I don't mind approaching them that kinda, without all the answers and just being like, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah.
So just something I figured we could add to.
And to your question about the enforcement, like I wonder if, I do see boats sitting on the bottom at low tide, and I don't know what's permitted there. And, it's really kind of hard to get them to come down to inspect them. And so I wonder if that enforcement improved, if we weren't really seeing as much of a concern, maybe, I don't know.
And it's not your office, correct?
No, it's.
No, there's one enforcement agent for conservation
So that's something.
to cover an entire town of
Which is a lot of
docks
boats.
and piers, yeah.
And I don't mind approaching them about that, just asking them.
In other towns, they have plaques on the docks with the regulations on it.
Yeah.
I
And
wonder
what
if- would
boats
that
allow
be an
there.
easy, that would be a simple way to enforce things, much easier if the town just made there be a plaque that said what the size boat or the draft, or I don't, like whatever.
For a lot of projects, that is a requirement, but there are some like older projects that as long as they're doing, it's just like maintenance and no major changes to the existing docks that are grandfathered in. There are boats that are allowed to sit on bottom. There are boats that are in like not a lot of water and they're large vessels. There are docks that are allowed to have as many vessels as they want to tie up to them because they're essentially grandfathered in and haven't made any major changes to those docks, which would then require a new filing. But knowing which ones are which,
Yeah.
you just don't.
Just
So
putting a plaque, so you're saying that there are some boats that are allowed to break the regulation?
there are some docks that when they were permitted was prior to any of those
Yeah, okay.
requirements that are now in place, and so they're grandfathered.
Into that they're allowed to sit on the bottom?
They
Okay.
weren't subject to the same requirements that like new projects are.
So
now.
all the new ones have plaques, or just like more, like maybe some?
To my understanding, yeah, if it's a change that requires a filing after, I don't know what year. But I see, like, when you look through the NOIs, they often have to tell you exactly what vessel they're planning on putting on there. And they show in the NOI what the little placard is supposed to look like that then gets posted on the dock. But we don't have like the knowledge that the conservation department does of which of all of the seas of docks and piers, those are required for and those are not. And so like for our piece of it, anytime we see something that we think looks funky, we take pictures and we send it to them and then ask them to investigate it. And sometimes they're allowed to be doing what they're doing, even though, you're say walking down the Mills River on a minus tide and see all the boats sitting on bottom.
And I think, another thing to add is like, say we change the depth and then people who submit their applications end up having to push the boat out further, but then also waterways will say no and then force them back in and then they'll be like dredge it. So I kind of wanna just set a better basis to where these projects don't even come to our
Well, the
table.
problem is people wanna put bigger and bigger boats in spots that don't fit, so like, if they wanna extend it out, I mean, like, yeah, I get, like, it.
You have an established pier?
There's
You have one.
yeah,
you know?
but like, if you can't put a boat there that you have, like, then, I mean, it's just a mess, I don't know, like, I don't.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's just something I figured would bring up, I still wanna look into it more but I mean.
Do you have any suggestions?
Me personally?
Yeah.
You know, I think 30 inches isn't enough.
Yeah,
I think 12 inches, no matter, dead shellfish,
yeah,
horrible water conditions, I don't
yeah, it
think
just
that's
gets
enough
into the
either.
water, the silt gets in the water, adds nutrients to the water.
I mean,
and
it's, these bigger boats have bigger motors and, I mean, they're pushing sand around and, I just think it's, the Cape's growing in popularity and everyone's dreaming big these days and I just wanna kind of put it under wraps and I feel like most of the NOIs where there's a good shellfish habitat, we say no because, or we're stuck, you know, because they just abide by that regulation and then it's taking up fishing area or taking up, you know, like we had the one where it was written in the regulations 20 years ago, but they still were able to apply and we still had to see it just because, where was that? Katuitt there.
Oh, the
Yeah.
pier, the proposed pier in the overlay
And it
zone.
like, why is that even reaching our table?
Yeah,
So it's just, I'm still new to this and I'm trying to just get some better communication with the commission, you know?
On these things, do they dictate, like, I've seen the size vessels and stuff like when the permits come. Is there any motor dictation, outboard versus inboard, number of outboards? I
Yeah.
mean, you can have
No,
a
there's-
single outboard or you can have 4 now, so it's like, yeah, I don't even know how
Four,
many you
that's
can
old
get.
school.
Yeah, so I mean, like,
And I
that's
mean,
another question, like, that's,
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's like they have final say.
yeah.
But like I wrote in my letter, you know, I was just, you know, broadly against it. But there wasn't too much like detail I could put in other than the fact that we think it might be good shellfish habitat someday. We shouldn't rule that out. But just something more that they can, I guess, follow. I mean, it's kind of a big ask from us, but I don't know. I just wanted to come up with something and.
So you think raise it a foot? I mean, like,
I mean, it's,
yeah, no.
I think just take it home and think about it and, you know, I'm gonna talk to multiple people and see if like we can come up with something and, you know, if it's something we wanted to approach them with, I'm more than willing to do it, so. But yeah, let's just move on from that and then, we can revisit it next month if we want to. And we'll see if we wanna actually run with it, alright? Alright. Upcoming, renewals and transfer hearings, it's just one,
Yeah.
right? It's for license site SG 013, Kevin Flaherty, and he's not here today, for a period of 10 years.
Yep. So, we don't see SGs often, so here's a map of West Bay. And this is where Kevin Flaherty's site is. And this is a blow up of where that site is. Largely managed by Cape Cod Oyster, so you can imagine.
Lots of dredge marks, not exactly.
So,
People running ashore, going straight.
approximate number of acres involved is 1 with a mean low water depth of approximately 3 feet, mean high around 6, existing bottom is sand, no natural shellfish populations present, oysters are cultivated there, they don't do anything other than oysters there. It's all bottom culture, no unnatural substrate is used. They basically drag for the oysters on the bottom. They do not institute a predator control program. It is not its sole means of support. does employ outside help, again, Cape Cod Oyster Company, and has requested the renewal period for 10 years. So he's had this site since 2010. He's up to date on all his paperwork. We don't have any issue on our end with the renewal. Do you guys have any questions?
As long as they call out on the site. There's just call sites all over West Bay now from people dredging and ripping it off the side and all that, but that's an old hat.
I would move approval recommend approval of site SG 13, Kevin Riley. Not Flaherty, rather, I'm sorry.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Alright, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Someday I'll be like, because I just don't want to start rattling it off. Next we have upcoming proposed coastal projects, 48 Starboard LLC with 48 Starboard Lane, Osterville. John,
Sullivan Engineering is here.
you want to explain the project before?
Sure.
we chime
Can
in?
you bring up the plan on the big screen too? This is today's.
This is the one you sent today.
Okay.
That's the original that you had sent us.
So this site has an existing boardwalk across the marsh that's like 50 feet and there's a little boathouse on it. That's all gonna be replaced just within its footprint, picked up like 18 inches higher. And then we had originally proposed a ramp and a float extending out perpendicular into the shore, into the water. Some neighbors had commented that we're just south of kind of one of the shoal islands in the river. And so one of the neighbors had commented that they trying to hug the western shoreline and asked us to look into rotating the float. We went out and did some extra soundings and think that it fits in there just fine. So this is a 16-foot float, non-motorized. We got 1 to 2 feet of water at the float. We'll be, at our outside edge, 12 feet off the salt marsh. We'd had a shellfish survey done. They said like 14 out of 17 of the places they found shellfish were 20 feet past the marsh. So hugging this in, actually, we're kind of getting it out of 90% of where there was a natural stuff out there, I guess. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is this, I'm not sure where this property is. Is this
It's-
just after the bridge?
It's,
Under the bridge.
If you're driving from Centerville to Osterville, if you look to the right,
Is
if
it,
you knock the sound side, it's the north side of the bridge.
yeah.
First side of the bridge, second
It's-
house,
it's the north side of the bridge and it's the
Yeah.
first house?
second house.
It's the second house?
Yes.
Do you kayak?
So it's at the
No, I
curve
don't,
going
but
straight to the
I'm
river.
thinking back, because we had some,
By
the
the
first
island.
house,
Yeah.
what came before, they wanted to, expand there. No, they wanted to, they
You
had,
wanna
they
go on
owned,
Long Beach.
Yeah,
As
they
long,
had-
yeah, it was
they
just
had
down here.
and they wanted it, yeah.
So how did you, it was initially straight
Originally, it
out?
was going straight out, yeah.
Okay, and then you just
We turned
rotated
it
it?
90 degrees.
Was that area surveyed where it
We had had
is?
some soundings in there before. In terms of the shellfish survey, he had done east, center, west, I think, so.
Okay.
I think he's generally covered that area, so.
And this is the second house in from the,
There's already a little boathouse there. So
right.
you're gonna, so like if you go under the bridge and look to your left, it's like
yeah, yeah.
you come from Long Beach, go under the bridge, look to your left, and there's like a little boathouse on the water. And that's where this is. But
Do you
this
have
is-
do you have Google Maps? I
It's
mean,
not that property we were talking about.
No.
No,
separate
no.
Property, just down,
Alright,
just
just
down.
down from it, okay.
Similar, very similar situation.
no, there was the one that was going on in the Centerville River, I think she's talking
Yeah,
about.
but it was an impact from a neighbor and the boat.
Yeah, so there's the boathouse. That's just what I was looking at, is getting the shellfish.
No, it's like on Long Beach.
And then.
Yeah, from last meeting, right?
No, she's talking about.
Is that where the
Long Beach.
abutter, like the
On Long Beach.
The butter map would probably, is the.
There we go. Yeah, so there's the bridge.
There's an osprey nest right over there.
Yep,
Okay, so
yeah.
it's the second one.
And then, in terms of, from like a shell fishery perspective, it's in a prohibited area, but it's adjacent to the conditionally restricted area that we're allowed to do contaminated relays from. It is very productive, and so initially, our comments were that we felt the addition of a ramp and float wasn't necessary, just given the productivity of the area, but just redoing the pier would be fine. And then I would look, if it's permitted, to pursue a route through DMF to move the prohibited stock amidst the rest of the prohibited area, just so that that stock doesn't get damaged, because it's prohibited, but it's very productive.
It's live shellfish.
About prohibited, how come, like, what would make it like like the areas that we can do the relays in? Like, what's the criteria, like, what makes it like, just, you can't ever get them?
Fecal coliform.
And it never comes out of them?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, so in order for you to be able to eat shellfish, they have to have an acceptable or lower than a threshold amount
No, I
of fecal
understand all
present.
that.
So when you get into a conditionally approved area, say like East Bay, for portions of the year, or like in Barnstable Harbor Marshes for portions of the year, that math is skewed and it's not safe for people to eat that stuff. And so in open season, yes. In closed season, no. Conditionally restricted, which is suitable for contaminated relays, require relay to an area that those shellfish then have a minimum of, I want to say, 3 months to depurate themselves, so to clean themselves out. Which is why when we do digging in the Centerville River, you plant it in East Bay, because East Bay can't open until at a minimum December 1st, and they're in there for plenty of time for them to clean themselves out. But we also have to have those meats tested before we can open. So like, they have to be clean for real before we can open. And then there's prohibited, where it's just too much poop all the time.
So they won't clean themselves out?
No, it's like the stuff from Hyannis Center Harbor. It's gross beyond repair. Maybe, after 80 years of sewer, who knows? I have no idea.
No, I'm
I'll be
saying
dead.
like when you relay the clams from there, they just will never get cleaned. I just try and understand, like, there's a certain.
We
level.
can't legally relay from a prohibited area to anywhere
No, I
else.
understand. I'm just trying to get like a little bit more like detail on like.
Just classification.
Do you get what? No, I get it. I get it. Just class. Never mind. Like, if no one's getting my point.
I get what you're saying, you're just trying to figure out the differences, what prohibited, I mean, whoever is deeming
It
it
seems like
prohibited.
if it gets cleaned out, wouldn't like couldn't you clean any clam out, right? I mean,
Jake, maybe it's because
This
in
is
one case-
based on the classification systems from DMF, which are informed by the model ordinance. This is not stuff that
You just
like,
say you're not
the
sure,
state doesn't, the state
Jake,
doesn't
if
allow it.
If shellfish
It's not
has
negotiable.
bacteria in its gut,
Yeah.
it'll eventually expel it. But
I know,
if the
yeah.
bacteria or some chemical problem is in its flesh,
Okay.
then it will never clean itself.
I hear you.
And that may be what part of the difference.
So then if,
I think a clam's still a clam, like at the end of the day.
I just want to know why you
So
couldn't
this,
relay
it's like,
every
oh,
clam,
we
you know, or what?
they're just not allowed to.
If you could test the meats, like, why couldn't you relay every clam?
That's all dictated in
I know,
the
by
model
DMF,
ordinance,
yeah.
which is above what the town is allowed to decide they can and cannot do.
No, I understand.
That's
That's
federal
not
and
why-
state law.
I guess I'm not asking why you can't, I'm just asking why if you had any insight into why, but we got it.
I would
Yeah.
suggest you read the model ordinance. It's a very fun and interesting, almost 600-page read.
All right, can't wait.
How do you guys feel about anyone else?
What size boat are they thinking of putting on?
No motorized, not enough water.
It's a no, yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
floating around.
floating
I mean,
ramp.
And this just changed, so the shellfish
Yeah,
survey
he
is.
just sent that to
so
me today.
Are you guys gonna look at it again,
I've gotta look back at where
the shellfish survey was
where
done?
she did her survey, but I mean, I imagine it's equally as productive or at least consistent with what, was Dave the one who did your survey?
Yes.
Yeah, because we're typically relatively consistent with what Dave sees. And we already submitted our commentary ahead of the first hearing, but it is continued to October 7th, so
Yeah.
if the committee wanted to weigh in, you have opportunity to, because it was first opened on, last Tuesday, maybe? Last Tuesday was it opened? I can't remember.
They didn't even open it
Oh,
because
they
we
didn't?
continued it before.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, so it hasn't even really been heard yet. So,
I mean,
yeah.
what do you guys think you should? You know, the way I look at it is there's live clams in there. It's just kind of sticking to the point like we made with Long Beach. You know, it's habitat. It's not pretty, but you don't know. We don't wanna rule, once we give it up, we always lose it forever. So is it something worth giving up, or, you know, just recommending that, you know, there's shellfish here, it's a habitat, you know.
There is an existing pier there now.
There is an existing pier
But not an existing float.
without,
Right, but
no rampant, it's just the rampant float
Will the
that we're
float
worried
ever
about.
sit on the bottom?
No, there's gonna be, there's
Stops.
4 posts with stops to keep it from,
So it'll hang?
it'll hang. Minus tides.
I'd just like to say, I don't want this committee to be the committee, I don't want John's life to be miserable every time he comes
No,
in
no.
here, you know what I mean?
No, and I
But
just,
and I just wish that the town and the conservation, like, I don't really have a big problem with this particular project. It's just when we do have a problem, I mean, it just feels like we don't have a say either way, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be the anti-dock committee by any means, so I just hope that, I don't know, that, you know.
so, I mean, if we don't wanna recommend anything, that's fine with me. You guys okay with that?
What happens if you don't make a recommendation?
We just have no, nothing to say.
It almost
Is this
doesn't
a
matter
seasonal
anyways,
pier?
with the way that it goes, you know what I mean?
No, the
So-
ramp and float will be seasonal, but the structure.
Because
the
it's only 4x4s, right?
It is, that's what's holding up that existing,
And that's adequate for a permanent pier.
in the marsh, yeah.
That's all? Alright, we'll continue then. And that seems to be about it. Does someone wanna adjourn this meeting?
I would move that we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I'm second it.
Alright, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Alright. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.